The massive Imperial flagship, Sovereign Light, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its crystalline hull gleaming under the distant sunlight. Admiral James stood at Earth's Orbital Defense Command, watching the alien vessels approach on the main display. His weathered face remained calm, but his fingers drummed steadily on the command console. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Allen from his station. "Standard Imperial diplomatic protocols, just as our deep space monitoring predicted." James nodded slowly. For decades, Earth had secretly observed the Galactic Empire's expansion, watching as they integrated civilization after civilization into their fold. Some joined willingly, others through subtle coercion, and a few through direct force. Earth had used this time to prepare, building defenses and developing technologies that the Empire couldn't imagine. "Maintain communications blackout," James ordered. "Let's see what they do when no one answers." The Imperial ship continued its approach, now joined by two smaller escort vessels. Their elegant designs masked their true nature as warships, a fact Earth's intelligence had long confirmed. On board the Sovereign Light, Imperial Ambassador Marcus grew increasingly frustrated. "These primitives should have responded by now," he muttered, straightening his ornate uniform. "Captain, move us closer. Perhaps their communication systems are too basic to reach this distance." The Imperial ships accelerated toward Earth, crossing the orbit of Mars. In the Defense Command, warning indicators flashed across the screens. "They've crossed the outer marker, sir," Allen reported. "Automated defense platforms are tracking them." James watched as the Imperial ships approached the red line, the point of no return Earth had established. The Empire's arrogance was playing out exactly as predicted. They never considered that a primitive world might want to be left alone, might have chosen isolation for its own reasons. The Imperial ships crossed the line. Instantly, dozens of previously invisible defense platforms materialized around the alien vessels. Spherical satellites, each barely the size of a car, their surfaces rippling with energy patterns that the Empire's sensors couldn't comprehend. "By the Emperor's crown," Marcus gasped, staring at the tactical display. Where did these come from? Before he could give any orders, each platform released a pulse of blue energy. The pulses passed through the Imperial ship's shields as if they didn't exist, enveloping each vessel in a web of crackling energy. "All systems failing," the Imperial captain shouted. "Shields, weapons, engines, everything's going dark." In the Defense Command, James finally opened a channel to the disabled ships. "Imperial vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. You have entered restricted space without authorization. Your systems have been temporarily disabled. You have 1 hour to restore emergency power and leave this solar system. Any further incursion will be treated as an act of war." Marcus raged at the communication screen. "Do you know what you're doing? We represent the Galactic Empire. You cannot." James cut the transmission with a gesture. "Make sure they can restore enough power to leave, but not enough to cause trouble," he ordered. The defense platforms maintained their position as the Imperial ships drifted, their once proud crews scrambling to restore basic systems. After 45 minutes, emergency power flickered back to life on all three vessels. The Imperial ships retreated, their crystalline hulls now scared and darkened, limping back toward the outer system. As they prepared to jump to hyperspace, Marcus stared at the blue marble of Earth through his viewport. "Impossible," he whispered. "They were supposed to be primitive. The Emperor must know about this." The ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only a fading energy signature and a clear message. Earth was not what the Empire had expected. In the Defense Command, James finally allowed himself to relax slightly. "Send word to the Council," he ordered. "The Empire came exactly as predicted. Phase 1 is complete." "Do you think they'll be back, sir?" Allen asked. James nodded grimly. "They'll be back, with more ships next time. But now, they know we're not helpless. And that's exactly what we wanted." The real question is whether they'll be wise enough to listen when we explain why we chose to stay apart from their empire. He turned away from the main display, where the defense platforms were already fading back into invisibility. The Empire's going to learn that some civilizations don't need their help, don't want their influence, and are perfectly capable of saying, "Keep out." The first move in humanity's long game had been played. Now they would wait for the Empire's response, knowing that everything was proceeding exactly as Earth had planned. Grand Emperor Titus paced across the polished floor of the High Council chamber, his ornate robes swishing with each turn. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the battle-damaged Imperial ships limping into the capital's repair docks. "Explain to me," he said, his voice dangerously quiet, "how 3 of our most advanced ships were disabled by a supposedly primitive world." The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Admiral Robert, commander of the Imperial fleet, cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, our initial intelligence on Earth appears to have been incomplete." Incomplete. Titus stopped pacing. "Our ships were disabled without firing a single shot. Their technology passed through our best shields like they weren't even there." Intelligence Director Michael stepped forward, activating a new hologram. "We've analyzed the sensor data from the encounter. The defense platforms Earth used employed energy signatures we've never seen before, but that's not the most concerning discovery." The hologram shifted to show various satellite images of Earth. "We've detected signs that humans have been actively hiding their true technological level. These images show energy readings that suggest massive underground facilities across their planet. They've been developing in secret, deliberately maintaining a facade of lower technology." Council member Jane, the Empire's chief scientist, added, "We've also found evidence that Earth has been observing us for centuries." She pressed a button, revealing a network of nearly invisible satellites spread throughout nearby systems. These stealth observation posts were practically invisible to our sensors. We only found them because we knew where to look after the Earth encounter. Titus sank into his throne, his face dark with concern. How many other secrets are they hiding? Why would they choose to remain isolated when they could have joined us? "That's the most interesting part," Michael said, bringing up another display. "We've intercepted decades of their internal communications. They'd been watching how we integrate other civilizations into the Empire. They've been studying us, judging us. Judging us." Titus leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Jane stepped forward. "Their scientific communities have been discussing the Empire's technological stagnation. They believe our method of absorbing other civilizations has led to a homogenization of thought and innovation. Earth chose isolation to prevent what they call cultural and technological contamination." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A civilization that had deliberately hidden its advancement, watching and evaluating the Empire like scientists observing specimens in a laboratory. "There's more," Admiral Robert added grimly. "Our deep space sensors have detected similar energy signatures to their defense platforms at key points throughout their solar system. They've built an interlocking defense network that probably extends far beyond what we saw. The entire system is a fortress." Titus stood, his expression hardening. "They dare to judge us, to reject the peace and unity we bring to the galaxy. Show me our military options." The Admiral brought up a tactical display. "We could assemble a major fleet, but given what we've seen of their technology, I cannot guarantee success. They disabled our ships without destroying them. A clear demonstration of technological superiority. They were showing restraint." "This cannot stand," Titus declared. "No world has ever rejected the Empire. No civilization has ever dared to ban us from their space. The other worlds will question our authority if we allow this insult to go unchallenged." Intelligence Director Michael raised his hand. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider why they chose this path. Their technology, their strategies, they're all carefully planned. They knew we were coming. They prepared for centuries. This isn't just about isolation. They're playing a longer game. The Emperor waved his hand dismissively. Assemble the fleet. We will show Earth the consequences of defying the Empire. Let them play their games. We will respond with overwhelming force. As the council members filed out, Jane lingered behind. Your Majesty, she said quietly, what if they're right about us? What if our empire has become stagnant? Titus turned to her, his eyes cold. Then we will learn what they know, one way or another. Prepare your research teams. When we take Earth, I want every piece of their technology analyzed and replicated. The decision was made. The Empire would not accept rejection, would not tolerate being banned from any world. But deep in their minds, every council member wondered, what other surprises was Earth hiding? The game was entering its second phase, but only Earth seemed to know all the rules. The message came without warning, broadcasting simultaneously across every communication frequency used by the Empire. In the capital's main communications center, operators watched in amazement as their screens filled with text in perfect Imperial standard, followed by translations in every known galactic language. Commander Peter of the Imperial Communications Corps stared at the primary screen, reading the message that was now echoing across thousands of worlds. To the Galactic Empire and all civilizations, the Sol system, containing Earth and its colonies, is hereby declared a restricted zone. No unauthorized vessels may enter this space. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is a warning. We have chosen isolation. We will enforce it. Violations will be met with increasingly severe responses. You have been warned. The message repeated continuously, its simple words carrying a weight that sent shockwaves through the Empire's bureaucracy. But it wasn't just the message that caused concern, it was how it was delivered. In the Imperial Science Division, technicians worked frantically to understand how Earth had bypassed every communication security measure simultaneously. Director Thomas watched the analysis screens with growing unease. They didn't hack our networks, he muttered, reviewing the data. They somehow transmitted directly into our systems, ignoring all encryption and security protocols like they didn't exist. The Emperor's response fleet, gathering at the edge of Imperial space, reported something even more disturbing. Captain David's voice crackled over the emergency channel. Central Command, we're detecting something. Massive energy signatures just appeared throughout the Sol system. Orbital surveillance showed what Earth had been hiding. A network of defensive installations was revealing itself, stretching from the Sun's corona to the Kuiper Belt. Stations that bent light around themselves, weapon platforms that could target ships in hyperspace, and technology that defied Imperial understanding. In the Imperial War Room, Admiral Robert slammed his fist on the tactical display. They're showing us their teeth. Everything we've seen before was just a fraction of their capabilities. Intelligence analysts worked overtime, piecing together fragments of information. Earth hadn't just built defenses, they had transformed their entire solar system into an impregnable fortress. The cost and technological sophistication required were beyond Imperial calculation. Look at this, Agent Mark said, pointing to a sensor reading. These installations aren't new. Based on the energy patterns, some of them are centuries old. They've been preparing for this moment since before we even knew Earth existed. The Emperor called an emergency council session. As the members gathered, a second message arrived, this one addressed specifically to the Empire's leadership. We know about the fleet you're assembling. We know your plans. Consider this. We could have destroyed your ships during first contact. We chose not to. We could disable your entire communication network. We chose not to. We could share our observations of Imperial corruption with your member worlds. We chose not to. We don't want war. We don't want diplomatic relations. We want to be left alone. Honor this, and there will be peace. Challenge this, and you will understand why we've hidden our true strength for so long. In the council chamber, debates rage. Some demanded immediate military action to crush this defiance. Others urged caution, pointing out that Earth had revealed only a fraction of its capabilities, and each revelation showed them to be further beyond Imperial technology than previously thought. "They're not just warning us away," Intelligence Director Michael observed. "They're showing us that our best technology, our strongest defenses, are like children's toys to them. And yet they're choosing to simply ask us to leave them alone." The Emperor sat silently on his throne, watching the debates swirl around him. The Empire had never faced a situation like this, a civilization powerful enough to enforce its desire for isolation, yet apparently uninterested in conquest or dominance. As the Council argued, Earth's message continued to broadcast across the galaxy. Other civilizations were watching, seeing for the first time that the mighty Empire could be told no. The political implications were enormous. In orbit around Earth, the defense network hummed quietly, its true capabilities still hidden. Humanity had shown enough to make their point, but kept their greatest secrets in reserve. They knew the Empire's pride wouldn't let them accept this challenge without a fight. The warning had been delivered. Now they would wait to see if the Empire was wise enough to heed it. The Imperial battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, an armada of over 300 warships arranged in perfect attack formation. On the bridge of the flagship Emperor's Wrath, Fleet Commander Anthony watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "Let's see how their defenses handle the full might of the Empire," he said, his voice carrying across the command deck. All ships, battle positions, launch fighters. Thousands of smaller craft poured from the capital ships, their formation creating a wave of metal and energy that had crushed countless civilizations before. The fleet advanced slowly, sensors probing for the defense platforms they knew waited in the darkness. Earth made no response. No warnings, no communications, no visible defensive preparations. "They're mocking us," Anthony growled. "All ships, prepare main weapons. Target their outer defense." He never finished the order. Space itself seemed to twist around the fleet. Stars blurred and shifted position. Officers stumbled as artificial gravity fluctuated. "Sir," the sensor operator shouted, "something's happening to hyperspace. The fabric of space-time is folding." The void between Earth and the fleet rippled like water. A massive structure phased into existence. A ring-shaped installation larger than any Imperial ship, its surface covered in patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. "By the Emperor," Anthony whispered. The ring began to spin, and reality shattered. Every fighter craft in the fleet suddenly found itself flying backward, their pilots watching in horror as their vehicles moved contrary to all physical laws. Capital ships spun wildly as their engines fought against forces they couldn't understand. "Break off attack," Anthony ordered. "Emergency retreat." But retreat was impossible. The hyperspace drives on every ship reported critical failures. The fleet was trapped in normal space, being toyed with by forces that ignored the basic laws of physics. From Earth's orbital command, Admiral James watched the display with a hint of sadness. They really couldn't help themselves, could they? He asked the empty room. "Initiate Phase 2. The ring structure pulsed once, and every weapon system in the Imperial fleet activated simultaneously, targeting other Imperial ships. Crews watched in horror as their own turrets turned and fired on their allies, their control systems completely subverted. "Stop firing. Override all weapons," Anthony screamed, but it was useless. The computers weren't responding. Through the viewport, he watched his mighty fleet tear itself apart. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The weapons fell silent. The strange forces released their grip. The ships drifted in space, damaged but largely intact. A new message appeared on every screen in the fleet. "This demonstration used less than 2% of our defensive capabilities. Your weapons are yours again. Your engines will restart in 5 minutes. Leave. Do not return." In those 5 minutes, the Imperial crews watched as more impossible structures phased into existence around them. Massive installations that dwarfed their largest ships, arrays of devices that bent light and space around them, and things they couldn't even describe. When the engines restarted, not a single ship hesitated. The fleet retreated in disarray, leaving behind their fighter craft and their pride. On the flagship, Anthony stared at the sensor recordings, his hands shaking. They could have destroyed us at any time, he realized. They chose to demonstrate their power instead. But why? The answer came 3 hours later, as the battered fleet limped home. Earth had transmitted the entire battle to every world in the Empire, along with a simple message. We did not destroy them because we are not conquerors. We did not kill them because we are not cruel. We simply want to be left alone. The Empire now understands why. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Titus watched the recording of his fleet's humiliation for the 10th time. His advisors waited nervously for his reaction. Finally, he spoke. We made a terrible mistake. Earth wasn't isolating themselves to hide from us. They were isolating themselves to avoid having to show us how far behind them we really are. The Empire had launched its greatest fleet to teach Earth a lesson. Instead, they had been the ones who learned. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial Archives, a vast complex stretching for miles beneath the capital city, had never been so busy. Teams of researchers worked around the clock, analyzing centuries of Earth's hidden communications they'd finally managed to decrypt after the battle. Director Williams stood before the Emperor and the High Council, his hands trembling slightly as he activated the holographic display. Your Majesty, what we've discovered, it changes everything we thought we knew. The display showed Earth's first detection of alien life over 300 years ago. The humans had watched, hidden and silent, as the Empire expanded across the galaxy. They saw us coming, William explained, but instead of reaching out, they chose to watch and learn. And what they learned troubled them deeply. He brought up another recording, a classified Earth Council meeting from 2 centuries ago. The assembled human leaders discussed the Empire's method of civilization integration with growing concern. The Empire's greatest flaw, spoke one of Earth's ancient leaders in the recording, is that they believe uniformity equals stability. They take diverse civilizations and reshape them into copies of themselves. They're creating a galaxy of mirrors, each reflecting the same image. This is not progress, it's stagnation. Emperor Titus leaned forward on his throne. They judged us unworthy of contact. No, Your Majesty. They judged us too dangerous to engage with. William changed the display again. Earth scientists noticed something we never had. Technological development across the Empire has slowed dramatically over the past 1,000 years. New member worlds quickly stop innovating, adapting to Imperial standards instead of pushing boundaries. Intelligence Director Michael stepped forward. We've confirmed their observations. Look at these statistics. Worlds that join the Empire show a 60% decrease in patent applications within a decade. Scientific breakthroughs become rare. Cultural evolution nearly stops. But why? Demanded a council member. We bring peace, stability, unity. At the cost of diversity, William answered. Earth's leaders saw that our standardization of technology, culture, and thinking was creating a galaxy-wide intellectual dead end. They chose isolation to preserve their independence of thought and innovation. The hologram shifted to show the technological progress Earth had made during its isolation. Advances that seemed to defy physics. Breakthroughs that made Imperial technology look primitive. Their greatest achievement wasn't their technology, William continued. It was maintaining their civilization's drive to innovate and explore. While we were spreading across the galaxy, making everything the same, they were pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The Emperor stood, pacing the chamber. Are you saying they hid from us to protect themselves from becoming stagnant? Yes, but there's more. William's voice grew quiet. They were waiting, watching. They believed that eventually, the Empire would face a crisis it couldn't solve with its standardized solutions. They planned to emerge then, to help guide the galaxy toward a new path. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members argued furiously against these conclusions, while others sat in shocked silence. "There's one more thing," William said, his voice cutting through the chaos. He activated a final recording, a message that had been buried deep in Earth's encrypted transmissions. "When the Empire finally finds us, when they learn why we chose isolation, they will face a choice. They can continue their path of enforced uniformity, or they can remember how to embrace diversity, innovation, and change. We will show them what they've lost. Whether they learn from it is up to them." The Emperor returned to his throne, looking suddenly tired. "All this time, we thought we were bringing civilization to the galaxy. Instead, we were slowly suffocating it." "Earth wasn't hiding out of fear," Michael added. "They were preserving something we'd forgotten was valuable: the power of independent thought and cultural diversity." As the council debated this revelation, a new message arrived from Earth. "Now you understand. We didn't ban you because we feared you. We banned you because we're trying to save you from yourselves." The Empire had sought to teach Earth about unity. Instead, Earth was teaching them about the price of enforced conformity and the value of standing apart. The question now was, would the Empire learn this lesson, or would pride drive them to make an even greater mistake? The news spread through the Empire like wildfire. Despite the Imperial Council's attempts to control information, recordings of Earth's defense of their system and their reasons for isolation reached every corner of the galaxy. In the frontier world of Nova Prime, Governor Andrew watched as citizens gathered in the streets, discussing the implications. "They're asking questions we can't answer," he reported to the Imperial Council via secure channel. "Why did we stop innovating? Why do all our worlds look the same? What else have we lost in our drive for uniformity?" Similar reports flooded in from hundreds of worlds. The Empire's carefully maintained image of superiority was cracking. In the Imperial Science Academy, researchers began questioning protocols that had remained unchanged for centuries. Professor Thomas stood before his colleagues, holding up an ancient teaching device. "Look at this. We've used the same design for 300 years. Not because it's perfect, but because we stopped asking if it could be better." On the industrial world of Mechanus, independent ships began appearing in orbit, vessels from other civilizations seeking contact with Earth. The Empire's ban on unauthorized diplomatic missions was being ignored. Trade Minister Richard observed the growing chaos from his office in the capital. "It's not just Earth's technology they're interested in," he told the Emperor during an emergency session. "It's their ideas, their way of thinking. Worlds are beginning to remember their own lost innovations." The Emperor watched as reports of civil unrest grew. Member worlds were demanding the right to pursue their own technological development, to restore their cultural uniqueness. The Empire's grip was weakening. Then Earth made its next move. A small diplomatic vessel appeared near each major Imperial world. These ships carried no weapons, but their hulls rippled with the same strange energy patterns that had defeated the Imperial fleet. Each broadcasted the same message: "We are now accepting diplomatic missions from independent worlds interested in technological and cultural exchange. The Empire's permission is not required. Choose your own path." In the Imperial Palace, the Council gathered for what would become a historic session. "We can't stop them," Admiral Robert admitted. "They can appear anywhere in our territory. Our best ships can't touch them. Our best sensors can't track them. They're showing everyone that the Empire's authority only exists if worlds choose to accept it." Intelligence Director Michael added grimly, 17 worlds have already announced their intention to establish independent relations with Earth. 30 more are preparing similar declarations." The Emperor sat silently, watching the holographic display of his fracturing empire. Centuries of control were unraveling in weeks. Then a new transmission arrived from Earth, this one private, for the Emperor's eyes only. "Your empire doesn't have to end. It needs to evolve. Your people don't need a master, they need a guide. Let them grow in their own ways. Let them innovate. Let them differ. Unity through diversity is stronger than unity through conformity. As the council debated emergency measures, a junior scientist burst into the chamber. "Your Majesty, we've been examining Earth's publicly shared technical data. The principles they're revealing, they're not just advanced, they're transformative. They're showing us how many paths we never explored, how many possibilities we ignored in our drive for standardization." The Emperor raised his hand for silence. For the first time in Imperial history, a smile crossed his face. "We tried to force Earth to join us, to become like us. Instead, they're offering to help us become something new, something better." He stood, his decision made. "Contact Earth's diplomatic vessels. Tell them the Empire is ready to learn, and send word to all worlds. The age of enforced unity is over. The age of guided diversity begins." Across the galaxy, the news sparked celebrations. Worlds that had forgotten their unique characteristics began remembering. Scientists opened sealed archives of abandoned research. Artists revived forgotten styles. The Empire wasn't collapsing, it was transforming. Earth had achieved its goal without firing a shot. By simply showing what was possible when a civilization maintained its independence and creativity, they had changed the course of galactic history. The paradigm shift had begun. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had planned all along. 1 year after Earth's revelation, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Great Hall of the former Imperial Palace now hosted representatives from hundreds of worlds, each distinctive in their appearance and technology. The rigid uniformity of the Empire had given way to a vibrant tapestry of diverse civilizations. Emperor Titus, now known simply as Coordinator Titus, stood before the gathered representatives. "A year ago, we thought Earth's ban was an insult to our power. Today, we understand it was a gift, a wake-up call that saved us from our own stagnation." The evidence was everywhere. Worlds that had been identical for centuries now blazed with unique innovations. On the industrial planet Forge, ancient manufacturing techniques had been combined with Earth-inspired principles, creating technologies that surpassed both traditions. The artistic world of Lumina had revived its forgotten light sculpting arts, producing wonders that drew visitors from across the galaxy. In orbit above the capital, Ambassador Mark from Earth met with the new Galactic Council in a chamber that reflected the changes below. Gone were the Imperial standards and uniform architecture. Each section represented a different world style and technology. "You've exceeded our expectations," Mark told the assembled leaders. "We believed it would take decades for worlds to rediscover their unique paths. You've done it in months." Director Thomas, now head of the new science exchange, brought up a holographic display showing technological progress across former Imperial space. "The rate of innovation has increased by 800% since the transformation began. Worlds aren't just remembering their old knowledge, they're creating new combinations we never imagined possible." The display showed ships of diverse designs moving through space, some using variations of Earth's space-folding technology, others developing entirely new principles. There was no longer a standard Imperial design. Each world built according to its own vision. "But the greatest change," Thomas continued, "isn't in our technology. It's in how we think. Worlds are learning from each other without trying to become copies of each other." Earth had kept its promise, sharing some of its advanced knowledge with civilizations that proved ready. But instead of creating dependency, they taught principles and encouraged unique applications. Each world developed its own version of the technologies, adapted to their specific needs and cultural values. The former empire had transformed into a coalition of independent but cooperative worlds. The old imperial military had been replaced by a defensive alliance that protected member worlds while respecting their sovereignty. Trade flowed freely, but no world could force its ways upon another. In the Great Hall, Coordinator Titus made a final announcement. "Today, we formally dissolve the last remnants of the Imperial system. In its place, we establish the Galactic Coalition, a union of equals, each contributing their unique strengths to our shared future." The announcement was met with thunderous approval. Representatives from worlds that had once been forced to abandon their heritage now proudly displayed their restored cultures. Ambassador Mark sent a final message to Earth. Phase 7 complete. The galaxy has remembered how to grow. Earth's response was brief. Keep watching. Keep learning. The true test comes next, seeing what they create when truly free. As celebrations erupted across the galaxy, the former Imperial archivists made one final entry in the records. The Empire died not through war or rebellion, but through transformation. Earth's ban forced us to confront our greatest weakness, the belief that unity required uniformity. In choosing isolation, they showed us the power of standing apart. In refusing to join us, they taught us how to change. The galaxy now moves forward on countless paths, each world free to find its own way while learning from all others. Earth's warning became our awakening. Their ban became our liberation. The age of the Empire is over. The age of diversity has begun. And in orbit around Earth, the defense platforms remained active, not to keep the galaxy out, but to remind it of the lesson learned. True strength comes not from making everyone the same, but from letting them be different. The new galactic order was established, and somewhere on Earth, the architects of this great transformation smiled, knowing their centuries-long plan had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams.